Shalom, Israel. We're back, and we are in Genesis chapter 1, verses 14 through 19, where we've been investigating the lights of the heavens as they give us signs and therefore appointed times, days, and years. And this is critical for understanding new moons and Yom Teruah, which is an appointed time coming up very soon here. And I've been spending a lot of time trying to bring out when does this Moedim start? When do new moons start? Where does Yom Teruah start? Because if we can't identify the beginning of the month, we're going to be off on all the other days since they're based off the lunar count. And this is really, really significant. And for those who are new to Torah, this may seem like beating a dead horse or seem like, oh, it really not that big of an issue, but it is a big issue, and actually it is a fellowship issue because you can't have fellowship if someone's celebrating, for example, Sukkot in the wrong month, or you're a couple days off here or there. By nature, you're going to have disfellowship, and so it's really important to start right, start from the beginning right. And this applies for a lot of things in life. If you're going to start from the wrong place, you're going to end up at the wrong place. So that's why I'm spending so much time looking at this, and we're going to spend a little bit more time just looking at the anatomy of new moons and Yom Teruah. Then we'll talk about what they actually mean. Obviously, it's important to know the meaning of these things, but if Yah's has made these appointed times for us to meet with Him, let's try to meet with Him when He actually instructed us to. And it's really that simple. So two takeaways we get from Genesis 1:14 is that, first of all, that the lights, specifically the lights of the sun and the moon, are for signs, appointed times, days, and years. It doesn't say darkness. And I have to bring this out because those who go by a dark moon, it's not in Scripture. And right from the beginning, we see this. On the other side, it's the light. And by the way, the first time the moon is mentioned on this day 4, it's producing light on this day. It says in the scripture here that, and it was so. He put the lights in the heavens, and it was so. On this 4th day, it happened. The moon produced light on day 4. And this is a huge pattern established right from the beginning. Today, what we're going to be doing is looking at some other Hebrew words that really help us know this for certain, other witnesses in the scripture that make us aware that, yes, we're looking for the sign of light to start our months and be able to rightly calculate new moons and Yom Teruah. Psalm 104 verse 19, it is written, He made the moon for the seasons, and the sun knows the place of its setting. Here in the Hebrew, we see clearly that the moon in the Hebrew is for the seasons, or that word moedim, and these are the appointed times of Yah. And this is important because this year there seems to be a lot of people following a solar-only based calendar. And in reality, the Hebrew calendar is a solar-lunar calendar, both aspects of them working together for the appointed times. And here we clearly see that the physical moon is part of these Moedim. Matter of fact, it was made for this very purpose. And this is important to understand. Colossians 2:16 through 17 says this, Let no one therefore judge you in eating or drinking in respect of a festival, new moon, Sabbaths, which are a shadow of what's to come, but the body of Messiah. See, the body of Messiah does have the authority to judge matters when it refers to these appointed times and to set the course straight. But another thing I want to bring out in these verses right here is that it says, which are a shadow of what's to come. There's something still future. Even in Paul's day, he's writing about this. There's something still future, a shadow of something what is to come. So these are appointed times, Passover, unleavened bread, Feast of Weeks, Day of Trumpets, Day of Atonement, Tabernacles, and the 8th day, picture really the menorah that are supposed to give light on the earth. And this is highly significant because all these Moedim are going to be happening during the light of the moon. Like the moon will be lit up during these appointed times. And this is significant because we're talking about the 4th Moedim right now, the Yom Teruah, or the Day of Trumpets. And there are some that think the dark moon or the full moon or these different things are the start of the month. And we need to have a consistent picture all the way through. These moedim point to the light of the world, Yahushua Messiah. And if we mess this picture up and we think that the fourth moedim starts in darkness, that fourth branch of the menorah is highly significant. And to say the lights have gone out and to misrepresent Messiah is highly significant. So we need to make sure we understand things properly, and that's why we're going to be looking at some Hebrew words today to help better clarify this. Exodus 12:1 and 2, it is written, And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aaron in the land of Mizraim, saying, This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Also Leviticus 23:5, it is written, And in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, between the evenings, is the Passover to Yahuwah. Also Deuteronomy 16:1, it is written, Guard the month of Abib, and perform the Passover to Yahuwah your Elohim, for in the month of Abib, Yahuwah your Elohim brought you out by Mitzrayim by night. Now, what we see with all these is it connects this idea of the first month being the month of Abib, and it's important for syncing Passover being in that first month. Now, in Exodus 12:1 and 2, it talks about in the beginning of months. And that word there is Rosh Hodeshim in Hebrew, which is plural for months, Hodesh singular. But we want to look at those two words that make the beginning of the month because we can get a lot of insight there. Also, we want to look at the word guard down in Deuteronomy 16:1, and it can help us better understand the appointed time known as the new moon and Yom Teruah. The first phrase we want to look at is Rosh Hodeshim, or Rosh Hodesh, and we're going to specifically look at the word Rosh. And this word, if you study it, it means head or the beginning. And when you actually look at the Hebrew letters that make up this word, you can actually see that as well. It's Resh, which means head, Aleph, which means ox, strength, and first, and Sheen can mean teeth like fire. And it's interesting, even within the word Rosh, you have the word Ash, the Aleph Sheen, which means fire. So we can see the beginning or the head of fire, the first fire from this very word. And we even see a picture like the moon as the head and kind of a crowning of the head. It's the first glimpse, kind of like a newborn coming into the world. The crowning is the very first part of this, and it's just really interesting. We can see this in the Hebrew language that this is the beginning of the fire, which obviously produces light. The next word we want to look at in the phrase Rosh Hodeshim or Rosh Hodesh is the word Hodesh. And this refers to the month, and it can mean new moon as well. But we want to look at its root, which is actually spelled exactly the same, Het, Dalet, Shin, and we can get a little bit more insight by looking at the Strong's H2318. Let's look at it and see what it says. The word Hadash means to renew or to repair. It can also mean to rebuild, which I'll highlight here at the bottom. Now, after the conjunction, after a time of darkness, this is significant because we see the first glimpse of light. We see this renewal, this repairing, this building up of light. And the lexicon tells us this, that this newness of appearance is very similar to a sharp, polished, splendid sword. And that's exactly what the new moon looks like, especially in the 7th month when it's staying up vertical. It looks very much like a sword or a sickle. And this is significant because the 7th month is all about the Feast of Ingathering. And it's reminding us that it is harvest time. Now, the third word we want to look at is the word shamar, which in the beginning of that Deuteronomy 16:1 passage it says guard, which is the word shamar, the month of Abib. And this is significant because we're supposed to guard this month. Now, that means a lot of different things, not just paying attention to the new moon, but the month in which the crop starts becoming ripe. We have to be able to make sure we put Passover in the correct season. But nevertheless, there is an aspect of even guarding. Um, we got to know when the beginning of that month is. So there is an aspect of watching and paying attention to even the start of the month. So this word shamar is very in tune with observation, and it literally can mean, and a lot of times it's translated as to keep, to observe. It can be a mark, it can mean watchman sometimes, to watch, to guard, to save. And I'm just kind of going through here. One of the interesting usages, it can be also to look narrowly, and I think that's interesting when we're considering the new moon and watching, and because a lot of times it's very difficult to see the new moon. You actually have to be paying attention, and it teaches us to be on watch, to guard, and specifically the beginning of the year. And it's highly critical to get the first day right, because if you get that first day wrong, you're going to get Passover and all the rest of the Moedim wrong for at least that month, and it's going to be a problem. And actually, you can actually intercalculate wrong and add an extra month, or get thrown off a whole month if you mess up on the first month. So this guarding the month, or even the beginning of the month too, knowing when that new moon is something that you need to pay attention to. And Hebrew months are either 29 or 30 days in length. And this is another key aspect that kind of shows us and points to the fact that the light of the moon that we read about in Genesis chapter 1 is something that we need to, when these new moon appearances come up, we need to be on guard, and we need to be paying attention to the Rosh Hodeshim, the beginning of months, and we also need to be paying attention to the Rosh Hodesh, which are the new moons, and this will tie in directly to Yom Teruah, which is on the first day of the 7th month. When we come back, we're going to be getting to this a little bit more in detail and look at different aspects, even how this ties into Messiah and even the Apostle Paul as well. Till next time, Shalom.